Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the First World War. I'm Mike B, and today we're going to be talking about something that I covered in my Vietnam series and I've been asked to cover for the World War I series, the use of combat shotguns by U.S. forces, the American Expeditionary Forces, AEF, in World War I. So, contrary to popular belief, the shotgun usage was not as widespread as you might think. Again, it's kind of like the whole gas thing. There was more of a psychological impact than there was an actual practical one. Shotguns were not actually in the military arsenal before the First World War when we got involved. They were, certain units had them, but they were mostly civilian shotguns. There are a few different styles used. I don't have any of them because the originals are extremely expensive, especially the 1897 trench gun. I'll just put a picture up here. You can check that out. That's the one that is most typical. It's got the heat shield on it. It's got an 18-inch barrel, wooden stock, bayonet lug, etc., etc. Now, this shotgun held 5 rounds, and it was a hammer-fired shotgun, which could be slam-fired. So that means if you hold the trigger down, right, you fire your round, bam, you hold the trigger down and you cock the thing. When you bring the slide or the pump back all the way to the front, it's going to just drop the hammer and fire again. So you can literally hold the trigger down and go pop, 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 pop. I know it looks like I'm jacking something off, but no, seriously, you could do that with the 1897. Other shotguns were used, but this was mainly a bunch of civilian shotguns that were donated by companies for use by MPs. A lot of prison guard duty, which MPs I'll get into another video because that was a new time for them. And it was mainly used by military police for guarding POWs and just for regular duty, like back in rear areas and stuff like that. But they're going to have like the 28-inch, game barrels on them. But those were used in rear capacities. Some were actually used in frontline capacities as well, but not really widespread. So basically, from my understanding of it, from what I've researched and other people have told me who are very credible sources, the 1897 was primarily the one that was used in the front. Not all of them had the heat shield with the bayonet lug, but most of them that were up there probably did. Now, because there were so few of them, these were like a battalion level item that was withdrawable, kind of like the trench knives, which I actually haven't done a video on that, so I'll be getting to that too. If you haven't seen that video, go check that out once I post it. So this was like something that wasn't just issued, like there wasn't somebody in your squad that was a shotgunner. You'd take a rifleman, usually a guy with the biggest brass balls, and you'd go, okay, so we're going to be doing an assault or a raid or just a general assault tomorrow. We're going to need a couple shotguns, to go and clear out the trench before we send our main guys in. So we're going to send out basically the equivalent of like the American stormtroopers. We didn't have any, but like that's basically what it was. Is guys that would go out, grenadiers would go out, chuck a bunch of grenades, and then you get these guys that went right in front of the main kind of force that was going up and over. And they'd pretty much get an interlocking field of fire up and down a trench section with these shotguns, fire their 5 rounds, and then either use the bayonet or they were issued a sidearm most likely, or a knife or something like that, or a club, what have you, because reloading a shotgun, like a tubular magazine in combat, not really going to be an effective thing. If they could, I guess they would have, because they'd just carry loose rounds in like a bag or a pouch or something. There wasn't like an actual shotgun pouch that was issued at that point. So you'd have a bunch of loose shotgun shells, and they were also cardboard at that point, so it was like, let's try to keep these dry, so that was another struggle, which is why they weren't like issued out regularly, I think, especially the cartridges. There were brass cartridges used as well, but those are more expensive and kind of hard to produce. So yeah, at first they were using paper cartridges. They used buckshot mostly, like the 9 pellet double-aught stuff from what I've read. It's very similar to that, 9, 8 pellet, 10 pellet, you name it. But it's generally going to be, excuse me, it's generally going to be buckshot because of the amount of projectiles you can get out in a very short amount of time. So yeah, you'd go out and you'd go to your battalion HQ, or somebody would go there, your supply NCO, and they'd be like, hey, we need to draw 2 or 4 trench guns for tomorrow's thing, right? And so they'd issue that out with a bunch of things. You'd sign for it, and then you'd go use it. And then after the assault, if the guys made it back or whatever, they'd go turn it back in, grab their 1903 or 1917, and then carry on with their duties. So with that, the Germans didn't like the trench guns, and it's got a lot of exaggerated myths, like, if they found somebody, they'd kill them on sight. Well, generally they weren't in a position to do that, but they just did not like them. The Germans literally called the shotgun barbaric. Yep. So you're throwing chlorine and phosgene at people, and now mustard gas at that point by the time we got involved. And a shotgun is barbaric, right? You're using a flamethrower to torch people and suffocate them out and burn them alive, but a shotgun is barbaric. That was a pretty funny thing to realize when they said that. I don't know. I was making fun of the whole rumor of like they'd shoot them on sight. A lot of that stuff, it's like it gets exaggerated after the war. It might have very well been true. I just can't confirm that. There's been no hard evidence I've seen of that or heard from any firsthand accounts of German soldiers and whatever. They didn't like them, of course, because it's like you get 10 rounds of a double-aught buck in a section of trench, you're gonna get hit with something. Like there's no really question about that, especially if you're at like 20 yards. You know, the spread on an 18-inch barrel with double-aught buck without a choke on it's gonna be like pretty wide. Which was the whole point. It was just to lay down as many projectiles as quickly as you could after the grenades, and the guys are all hunkered down. And just pop, 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 and then either go in and bayonet or use your sidearm or melee weapon or whatever the hell you had. Some guys actually slung their rifle too, so it was just like you drop it and then hopefully you can go turn it back in because otherwise it'd be a combat loss. But yeah, they're very not widely available, so that's why they were like a battalion level weapon that you would go out and draw for a specific purpose. That's kind of the combat setting. Again, the MPs, a lot of rear echelon people used them. With the cardboard cartridges because it didn't matter as much. A lot of the brass cartridges ended up making it to the front line because they were a little bit more water resistant. But yeah, so that's basically it. It's really not as widely used or done as people think. It was just because it was so unique, and basically until that point, I don't think really anybody in World War I was using a shotgun like for a purpose. Specifically to clear out a trench, a section of trench, which Americans love shotguns. We always have, we always will. They're amazing. They're fantastic. You get a lot of projectiles out there with one shot. You still have to aim a shotgun. That's another thing I want to kind of debunk. You have to aim a shotgun. It's not like you can just hip fire this and just if you shoot in that direction, everybody's gonna get hit. No. If you want to hit somebody within about 50 yards with buckshot, you need to aim because those pellets are going to go wherever. You might not actually hit them at 50 yards. 20 yards is even kind of like, okay, well, I'm probably going to hit him with one or two. So if you're just randomly shooting in a direction, you're generally probably not going to hit somebody. So that's why you need to aim a shotgun. However, you can hip fire it. If you're close enough, you can actually hip fire if you know where your first shot goes, and you can just kind of adjust from there and slam fire and get your 5 rounds off. You can do that, but generally you need to aim with a shotgun. So these guys would go up, and if they could make it up there that far, they'd go up on the sides and just pop, 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 and lay down all their rounds, and then if they had a chance to reload, they'd reload 5 more and then go for it again. And then that's why the bayonet lug was on there, because then they had a melee weapon. But when you get in close quarters, bayonets aren't really the best for close quarters stuff. So anyway, that was kind of the overall use of combat shotguns in the First World War. I'm not aware of any other country using them and in a large scale, larger scale like we did, and actually having it be like an issued item. And then after that, shotguns were kept in the U.S. arsenal as a main weapon. They were issued out in the Second World War. Surplus First World War trench guns were issued all the way up through Vietnam, actually. And yeah, so the shotguns kind of became something. They're still issued today by branches of the military. A lot of other countries use shotguns now for their militaries. It's a specialized tool, and it's also very effective. If everybody had shotguns, it'd be kind of pointless, but yeah, if you got one person, you're going and doing closer stuff, it's a very effective weapon. And they learned that in the First World War, and that's why we've had them in our arsenal ever since as an official thing. So anyway, if you got any questions, I'll try to answer them. That's pretty much all I know on the subject from what I've read and heard from reliable people that know their shit. I trust their expertise. Some of the best people for World War I U.S. historical stuff I've ever met. And they were saying that this is kind of how they're used, and I was like, okay, that makes sense, actually. So that's why you don't see actually a lot of pictures with a trench gun either, because 99% of pictures from the First World War were staged, and if you go to the battalion and say, hey, I want to take some pictures with my trench gun, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, take a flying leap. And so that's why you're not going to see a lot of pictures from the First World War with guys with shotguns, especially trench guns, because a lot of them were actually used in combat for a specific purpose, and then they were turned back in or either lost on the field or whatever. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'll try to answer questions. I'm not an expert on this or anything, but yeah, if you got a question, throw it out in the comments, and I'll see if I can get the answer if I don't know. Other than that, thanks for watching. Please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. I really appreciate the current patrons I have. They're allowing me to get some really cool stuff for this series, to actually delve into other countries and start covering other topics like getting props and stuff, uniforms, gear, and all that other fun stuff to help be able to teach you guys about this forgotten, basically second most forgotten war besides Korea, recently in American history. So it helps me to be able to visually show you. But just wearing the uniform kind of breaks down that black and white barrier for myself and for other reenactors. So I'm sure it's the same effect on you. I'm a visual learner, so that's how I learn the best, and it really helps if Patreon supporters donate money and I can be able to buy props and stuff, because I can't afford to fund the channel out of pocket anymore. I went into a lot of debt doing that over the past several years, and I cannot do that anymore. So I do votes too. It's not like I just take the money and spend it like the government does. No, I actually do votes, and you guys choose what I spend your donations on Patreon. So check that out. It's a pretty interactive thing. $1 a month gets you in. It's not that much. And if you do $5 a month, you get a Discord access, which I'm on pretty much all the time. And I check it randomly throughout the day. So it becomes more interactive at that point. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate that. Check out the Patreon, link in the description. And we'll see you on the next episode of the First World War.